The movie begins with a man named Chan Ho Ching, who is a prisoner who was imprisoned for 3 years for theft for 3 months. Chan also has a mother and girlfriend who are always loyal to visit him in prison, even though Chan is a criminal, but he and his girlfriend are very kind and caring to Chan. At that time, Chan be told by his girlfriend named Yi that he had arranged all the 60th birthday parties for his mother. And coincidentally, before his mother's birthday, Chan was indeed released. Actually, being in prison was not a disaster for Chan, because Chan felt happy and considered it a holiday. But not everyone thought the same. For example, the new prisoner named Mac, where Mac was always beaten by one of the biggest gangs in the prison. And it was normal for a new prisoner, Mac, to be detained for allegedly taking bribes. He was imprisoned for 5 years, but Mac felt that he had been framed. Even there, as much as possible, Mac would try to get out of prison as quickly as possible without getting hurt at all by applying appeal in court. But bad luck must befall him, where Mac is always beaten by a gang led by a man named Shen. Shen is the number 2 strongest person in prisons. Shen convicted to a life sentences, so that's why Shen dared to act arbitrarily without thinking about the conception, the purpose of Shen hitting Mac, because Shen had been paid by someone who is accusing Mac, so that Mac not appealing at trial. One time, the beating of Mac was known to the warden, so that Shen and Mac had to be brought to the warden. Not only that, Chan also be affected, although he did not interfere in the beating. And this is the chief warden named Tang. That is the warden who has power over all activities in prison. He has did his job for 30 years and will get a promotion. That's why the purpose of the chief of warden calling Shen is to warn and ask for help, so that for the next 3 months there will be no commotion in the prison. Mac does not agree with the rules of the chief warden, because Mac wants revenge against Shen. But Chan warned Mac not to do it because he will still be beaten, until suddenly one of the rulers other than Shen appears, namely Lam, or commonly called as the Big Roller. He just came out of the isolation room. Lam was sentenced to 30 years for murder. He had power a few years back, but the chief warden in Shen's side deliberately made the power of Lam weakened. Even the chief warden also advised Lam not to make a fuss as well, while Chan, who was getting close to Mac, told him to join the group of Lam so that Shen would not beat him again. Chan also took Mac to the place of the carpenter, where that job is the one that ruled by Lam, and Chan also explained that Lam's group attaches great importance to brotherhood. Chan also advised not to discuss about Lam's daughter who has passed away, because it is his weakness. Then Chan also introduced Mac to Lam. Chan think Mac is a very valuable asset because he has a master degree in architecture, and it might be very useful to join a group of Lam. But unfortunately, Lam immediately beat Mac when he found out that Mac is the owner of the company that once made a Cheonghing building burn, where for the burning of the building, the goods of his daughter had to burn out. That is the peak of Lam's anger against Mac. Mac explained to Chan that he had nothing to do with the fire. It was just slander and accusations thrown at him, so that Mac could go to jail in addition to being accused of taking bribes. Scene continued when Chan is visited by his girlfriend in a sad face. He say that Chan's mother sick and was being treated in the hospital. And it turned out that his mother could have acute kidney failure. So that's why now his mother needs kidney transplant, because with her age is very old, it will be very dangerous if she does not immediately have surgery. Hearing that bad news, Chan going to the chief warden to ask permission to get out of prison for a while for kidney surgery to his mother. The chief warden would grant the request, but Chan must following prison protocol, and not wanting to risk, the chief warden told Chan to wait 3 months for his promotion to end. That makes Chan get angry. The arguing happened between them both. The chief warden punished Chan to running around the field until night. At that time, Chan run out of his idea. Chan tried to escape by climbing over the iron fence, but unfortunately the warden who was watching him tried to thwart him, until suddenly he sees a worker who had just finished cleaning garbage from the sewer. Chan has an idea to escaping through the sewer. On the other side, as usual, Mac was beaten by a group of Shen. Mac also accepted the threat from Shen. It makes Mac frustrated and tries to commit suicide. Fortunately, Chan arrives in time and manages to thwart him. Chan tell his plan to escape through the sewer. Chan also need help from Mac, because Mac is an architect and it will be very useful to analyze a building. Chan and Mac starting to analyze every street and door in the building, starting from the sewers, drainage dumps used by cleaning workers to enter the prison, where the sewer path will go directly to the outside of the prison. They must also be able to get keys to open the hallways of the building. which will definitely be locked. Not only that, because every corner there is CCTV, then they plan to turn off the electrical panels in the building so that their every movement no one knows about it. They will also pass through the vents to get to the room where there is a drainage hole door, but it will be very difficult because every entrance into the air vent is also monitored by CCTV. But there is only entry door to the air vent that is not monitored by CCTV, which is the headquarters where Lam is located, where they automatically have to persuade Lam to allow both of them to use the ventilation door to escape. Instantly, Chan also has a plan to beaten Lam, so that Lam can obey all requests from Mac and Chan. The plan begins. Lam suddenly received a letter sent from Chan. That letter immediately makes Lam surprised, where we are immediately shown flashbacks to the time when Lam and his wife and child were together. At that time, Lam loved his daughter very much. Lam never stopped to make his daughter always happy and laugh, but on the way home, suddenly there was a person who attacked Lam from behind. It made Lam have to protect his daughter. Unfortunately, during the attack, his daughter was hit by a cleaver on her back. That's what made Lam angry and killed the thugs. Lam ended up being imprisoned for the murder, but his wife said that Lam not only killed the thugs, but Lam was also the one who caused her daughter killed. That's the trauma and regret experienced by Lam. But in fact, the letter sent by Chan is a photo of Lam's daughter's childhood until growing up, where it turns out that his daughter did not die. It is just his wife's lie so that Lam feels guilty and no longer has contact with his daughter. Now his daughter is an adult and even almost married. Chan knows that fact when Chan stole a wallet, where it turned out that the wallet he stole was Lam's daughter's wallet. Chan just realized after seeing a photo of Lam and his daughter in prison. Chan asked his girlfriend to find information about Lam's daughter, and it turns out that now his daughter is getting married on the night of the Mooncake Festival. So all the information obtained by Chan. Chan asked Lam for help to help him to escape, but suddenly Lam shocked and faint because hearing the story that his daughter was still alive. After waking up, Lam discussed with Chan and Mac. Lam shared his regret for not always being next to his daughter and when his daughter was about to get married. So Lam wanted to join Chan and Mac to escape from prison to see his daughter to get married. Chan also explained his plan to Lam. First, open the gate in the open field, then enter the ventilation in Lam's room. After that, they stopped first in the panel room to turn off the electricity so that all CCTV off. And because of the power outage the alarm will sound, that's when they have 10 minutes to break the door and go to the administration room, where the dump entrance is located. After coming out of the dump, they will be picked up by Chan's girlfriend. The plan is to be done on the eve of the festival because of the official judiciary will come to the prison. And of course, it will make the wardens busy, for the festival itself will be held less than 2 weeks. Therefore, they will prepare some needs before the plan starts. First, they tried to open the air vent, but because they don't have a key, Chan have difficulty opening the bolts, until suddenly Mac had an idea, which is to make a bolt lock from plastic that's burned and frozen according to the shape of the bolt. And it turned out that the idea is successfully used to open all the air vent bolts. They also panicked because suddenly there is a warden voice approaching them. The threat of Shen to Mac still continued, where Shen still warns Mac to immediately withdraw his appeal, until suddenly Lam comes to defend Mac. He admitted that Mac now is his subordinate and joined his group. There is an argument between Shen and Lam, but fortunately the warden managed to forbid them. For further preparations, Lam told his men to buy a white glue, where the glue would be used by them to copy the key held by the warden. They prepared to pretend to hit the warden, and as soon as possible will stick the key in the glue they have prepared. And it turns out that it works. But unfortunately, because it is too panicked, Chan grasped the glue too tightly so that it makes the shape of the key shattered. They also looked for another solution to do it again. With the same flow, they tried again to copy the key, and this time they managed to trick the warden and successfully took the shape of the key. From that form, they also made the key from plastic that was burned and frozen. The next step, Mac and Chan try to trace the air vent that they have managed to open, where they analyze the electrical panel, which that panel will be. They extinguished it later. Then they continued to the end of the vent. It turned out that the vent was closed permanently. Of course, they had to think again to be able to open the end of the ventilation door, but when they are thinking about the plan, suddenly Mac was attacked by the men of Shen. From here, there is a commotion between Lam Group and Shen Group, and finally they are all brought to the leader of the warden to settle his business. The warden offers to fight one-on-one between Shen and Mac, but seeing Mark's injured condition, Lam is willing to replace him against Shen. And finally, a fight between the two prison bosses ensues. At the beginning of the game, Lam has been able to deliver several blows to Shen, But with a burly body, Shen could withstand all these blows, and Shen managed to turn the situation around by beating Lam mercilessly. With a face full of blood, Lam doesn't give up easily. He also managed to lock and rotate the hands of Shen. And finally the fight won by Lam. From that incident, Chan, Mac and Lam are placed in temporary isolation. They also tell each other that they must get out of there soon. Where Chan, who has to help his mother to surgery, Lam have to go to his daughter's wedding. But unlike Mac, Mask just wants to escape from prison for fear of being attacked by Shen and the others. Lam advises Mac not to escape from prison, because if he found out, it could be that his sentence would be increased. Mac is told to wait until the results of the trial and did not need to think about Shen, because Lam's right hand would always guard him from Shen's attack when Lam and Chan managed to escape. Mac agreed to the suggestion and would stay in prison for a while, but Mac will still help the process of escaping from Chan and Lam. After thinking, Mac, who's smart person, got an idea to break into the iron bars of the air vent, where Chan asked his girlfriend for help to send hacksaws tucked in the Bibles. Day by day they are sawing the hacks one by one, until suddenly Shen transferred to the job where Lam and others work. That's carpenter's work. The purpose is to find and supervise the activities of Lam, because the chief warden has begun to be suspicious of Lam's movements. Not only that, the chief warden also has spies from Lam's group men, where he is assigned to collect information from Lam's group. Because getting the information, the chief warden held an inspection impromptu, where the other side, Chan, tried to sawn off the iron bars, while Lam and Mac are quite panicked because their plans can be exposed. And when absent, it turns out that Chan is not on the list. That is what makes the chief warden suspicious. The chief warden also asked Shen about what information had been obtained, but unfortunately Shen is more partial to Lam and said that the situation is safe because he did not get any good information. Finally, the chief warden tried to search the headquarters of Lam's group, and fortunately Chan had managed to secure himself and pretended to be asleep during work hours. Shen already knew that Lam and Chan planned to escape from the prison. Therefore, Shen stole the key that had been made by them and threatened to throw it away if they did not invite Shen to escape with them. Finally, they are forced to invite Shen to escape together, even though they didn't really believe in Shen. Shortly, the night festival began. The prisoners are collected in the middle of the field to celebrate together with the judges. In the midst of the fun of the party, they also began their escape action, starting from opening the door with the key they had prepared. But it turned out that the spy from the chief warden knew about it and immediately reported it to the wardens. The chief warden rushed to look for them, but Lam, Chan and Shen had already managed to enter the air vent, so that the chief warden told to close all exits. Not only that, the wardens also turned off the alarm so as not to be discovered by the justice official, while the chief warden going to the CCTV room to monitor the movements of the 3 escaped prisoners. On the other side, Shen got the task to go down and turn off the electrical panel, but it turned out that the plan did not match the calculation, where the switch that was turned off on the panel did not make the electricity in the prison go out. Chan also tried to check it, and it turned out that it was true that the panel was not to turn off the electricity in the prison. A debate ensued because before Chan did not try it first. Finally, Chan is forced to unplug all the panel cables, but in fact the power still did not go out, and there is only an alarm that went on, even though it was turned off. Elsewhere, Mac learned from the warden's spies that his friend's escape plan already known by the wardens, to buy time and make the warden panic Mac, making a fuss to divert the warden's supervision. Because there is no time left, they also rushed to continue the escape process without turning off the electricity, so that their whereabouts were found by the chief warden. With his ability, Chan tried hard to unlock the door using chewing gum, while Shen, who got panicked, then attacked Lam and told him to go to the warden to buy time. But luckily, Mac suddenly come and hit Shen's head until he fainted. In short, Chan managed to unlock the door and immediately going to the administration room to open the disposal room. While looking for the key, Mac volunteered himself to block the warden to not finding the whereabouts of Lam and Chan. But because he felt sorry for Mac, finally Chan decided to help him fight back the warden and told Lam to hurry up to open the sewer door and go alone without him. With the harshness, Lam managed to open the door, and when he wanted to help Chan, suddenly Chen said to just go alone without him, because the other side, Chan and Mac, was already lying unconscious along with the warden after a fight. And finally, Lam managed to get out of prison through the dumping route. Chan's girlfriend is also waiting for him outside. Initially, Chan's girlfriend wanted to pick up Chan, but Lam forbade her. because it would be very dangerous, and suddenly there is a warden who come to thwart the escape. Fortunately, Chan's girlfriend managed to beat him unconscious, and they rushed to leave from there. After the incident, Lam attended the wedding of his daughter. He was confronted by his wife because she doesn't want her daughter to meet her father, who is a criminal. His daughter also did not know that her father was still alive. Lam promised not to make a fuss and would watch it from afar. In short, the wedding began. Lam so very happy to see that his favorite daughter is married and living happily. A speech was spoken from his daughter. She expressed gratitude to her mother who had taken care of her until she grew up with affection. Of course, this makes Lam as a father a little bit sad because his daughter only remembered her mother. But when Lam wanted to leave, suddenly his daughter also expressed love to her father for always being there and always making her happy before death. After the event, Lam left and immediately picked up by the police outside the building. Of course, so as not to cause a commotion. Lam gave himself up, while on the other side, Chan and Mac were taken to the hospital for the treatment process. Without going outside the plan, Chan is very happy because with him being taken to the hospital, he can meet his mother and donate his kidney. After all those incidents, now his mother is back to health, and Chan has also extended his sentence. Not only that, the daughter of Lam also knows her father. Now his wife and daughter recognize the existence of her father and will stay in Hong Kong in order to always visit Lam. And for Mac himself, now he is increasingly ferocious and becomes a thug who rules the prison. At that time, Mac and his group came to a new prisoner who was none other than a person who had slandered Mac so that he is in the prison. It turned out to be just a play from Mac to scare the new prisoner. Not only that, the prisoner also received threats like what Mac had received before. This film will continue from the first sequel with 4 prisoners who have tried to escape with their respective goals. Chan's goal is to escape to donate his kidney to his mother. Lam aims to see his daughter get married, and Shen just wants to escape, even though he can only make a fuss. While Mac, even though he didn't run away, but he gets punishment because he is the mastermind behind the escape plan. From those all incidents, all the prisoners admire them, so that those 4 people are nicknamed Escape Brothers. Now they are all at peace by becoming brothers in prison. Chan is waiting for the near future to be released from prison, while Mac is assigned to be the boss to lead the renovation of the room because he is a famous architect, and their boss is still held by Lam. His job was only singing and drawing because Lam didn't want to make trouble, so that he is quickly to release. The next day, Chan was given an assignment by the chief warden to be a counselor, where Chan had to guide and tell the rules in prison to a new prisoner named Ho Chun. Chan initially refuses the order, but after knowing that Ho Chun is a successful and wealthy person, Chan taken advantage of the opportunity in the hope that Ho Chun will like him and could be worked together after Chan is released from prison. After Ho Chun's arrival in prison, Chan immediately provides an information about the rules and the activities in the prison, until suddenly the men of Lam told Ho Chun to meet Lam. But unfortunately, with his courage and confidence, Ho Chun refused the call and immediately made the prisoners angry. Finally, Lam intervened to meet Ho Chun, but still with his arrogant and fearless attitude. Ho Chun ignored introduction from Lam. However, Lam is not provoked by emotions and gives a little motivation to Ho Chun. The hassle of Ho Chun outside the prison as the boss of various companies. Of course, he doesn't want to be a subordinate of Lam. Ho Chun firmly said that he is not the type of person who likes rules, but on the contrary, Ho Chun is the type of person who makes rules and told people to follow him. Ho Chun fearlessly asked Lam and his men to follow him and given 48 hours to make his choice. Lam doesn't think much about it and just walked away. Lam also gave advice to the others that it would be dangerous to deal with Ho Chun. On the other side, it turned out that the treatment of the chief warden to Ho Chun is special, where the chief warden would obey all requests or complaints from Ho Chun. And Ho Chun only imprisoned for 3 months. The chief warden also offered to be placed in separately cell room with other prisoners so as not to be disturbed. But Ho Chun refused it and doesn't need special treatment because Ho Chun feels could handle the prisoners. And it was correct. When lunchtime, Ho Chun also gets different treatment from other prisoners, where Ho Chun is fed dead rats. That's what makes Ho Chun immediately angry. And finally, Ho Chun is brought into the kitchen to be confronted by their boss. And the scene shows Shen, who now is a little bit fat. And finally, there is a commotion in the kitchen to teach Ho Chun a lesson, which turned out Ho Chun is very good at fighting, so he could defeat all the men of Shen. But unfortunately, Shen suddenly hit Ho Chun from behind and instantly making Ho Chun sprawled. And then the scene shows when Lam got a visit from his wife, where his wife always visits Lam on Tuesdays every week. His wife also scolds Lam for sending very ugly pictures. She also tells Lam that their daughter is pregnant. Absolutely, that news made Lam very happy. On the other side, Shen also received visits from his subordinate. He reported that there are errands who beat him while at work. This has happened because Shen made trouble in prison. So there is an errand who beats the closest people to Shen. It is certain that the person is Ho Chun, with his extensive connections. Ho Chun told outsiders to beat Shen's closest relatives. And because he doesn't want to take a risk, his subordinate decided to get out of Shen's subordinate in order to prioritize the safety of his family. When learning to draw with Mac, Lam seen the suspicious movements of Shen's men, where they prepare weapons to beat Ho Chun. Likewise, Chen has been watching and planning something to Ho Chun, who is in the library with Chan. Fortunately, some of Shen's men were caught off guard by the chief warden, who was on patrol, so they all failed and extended their sentences for a month. But for Shen himself still continued his plan even though only 4 people. Initially, Chan tried to stop him, but Chan could not do anything because he got threat from Shen. With the weapon, Shen launched his attack on Ho Chun, but in fact the action was stopped by his own men, who had betrayed Shen and chose to side with Ho Chun. They did it all because Ho Chun gave money to Shen's men, which with that money, they are becoming Ho Chun's subordinate. With the wealth possessed by Ho Chun, it is not difficult to pay people to side with him. With a cornered condition, Shen can't do anything when he is sliced in the head, even when Shen tries to attack. But he can't, because he is being held back by his own men. Ho Chun also asks to do violence to Shen, but Chan refuses, because he doesn't want any problems at the end of his freedom. Because the refusal, Ho Chun threatened to persecute as happened with Shen now. But fortunately, Lam come at the right time to save Chan. Lam also shocked by what had been done by Ho Chun so cruelly to Shen. Until finally Lam brought Chan to leave there. But when he wanted to bring Shen too, Ho Chun forbade him. And finally there is an argument between them. Although it was forbidden, but Lam doesn't care about it and still took Shen away from there. Many sided with him. All of Lam's men also left him. In fact, they are only given leftover food, and it turned out to be an excuse. The prisoners sided with Ho Chun because they had been paid $20,000 every month. But that fun didn't last long, when suddenly there is a bank officer who come to Ho Chun. They gave an information that there is a died victim when billed by the collector from Ho Chun's company. That's why Ho Chun gets the punishment from a charge to be murder. Ho Chun certainly not acceptable because his company already has permission related to credit collection, and the problem is purely the fault of the employee. It has nothing to do with his company. Not only that, now the work partner of the company of Ho Chun also revokes the cooperation because already knows that his company has many problems. Plus, there are also witnesses who will reveal at the trial later. The officer suggested Ho Chun to just admit it at the trial in order to get a leniency sentence, but if he doesn't admit, there is a possibility that Ho Chun will be imprisoned for life. The situation makes him uneasy, because if only sentenced to 3 months, Ho Chun can pay to the prisoners who has been promised. But if Ho Chun suddenly sentenced to life, Ho Chun will end up in prison because he can't pay for it. Ho Chun also has an idea, where with the previous incident that Lam, Chan, and Mac had made an escape. Therefore, Ho Chun asks the 3 of them to help in planning the escape. Ho Chun promises to pay them $5 million if they want to make an escape plan. They refused the offer and gave a warning to Ho Chun, because even though Ho Chun managed to escape and go abroad, he would not have a good life and remain a fugitive. With previous events, now the wardens have tightened security. Ho Chun also threatens the safety of Lams, especially his wife and daughter, if they don't want to help Ho Chun escape. Ho Chun also knows the residents of the Lam's family. That is what makes Lam unable to do much, and will think about the offer for 24 hours, and sure enough, that the threat really happened, where Lam's wife when she wanted to go to visit Lam in prison. Confronted by thugs, and immediately they destroy her car. Lam asks why his wife did not come to see him that day, but Mac calmed him down by thinking positively if his wife is in traffic. But suddenly, the disaster that befell his wife was broadcast on TV and made Lam angry with Ho Chun. Unfortunately, Lam could not beat Ho Chun because Ho Chun threatened him by retaliating to his wife if Lam dared to hit Ho Chun. Lam then meet the chief warden to borrow his phone. Lam wanted to contact his wife and daughter who are in danger. Lam wanted to tell them to go to find a temporary safe place. But unfortunately, the chief warden did not allow him because it was a rule in prison. Even the chief of the warden also seemed indifferent to it. Until the chief warden made it difficult for Lamb to fill out the form if he wanted to borrow it, he tried to forcefully borrow the foam, but the warden restrained him. And finally Lamb is put in isolation. Now there are only Mac and also Chan who is left. Mac is worried that he can't make an escape plan from Ho-chun alone, because Lamb is being isolated and Chan will also be free soon. Chan has a plan that when he is free, he will immediately take his family from Lamb to a safe place, while Mac doesn't have to worry because Ho-chun won't be able to threaten him because Mac doesn't have family. And then suddenly there is a patrol. All the prisoners panicked, not least Chan, who is suddenly pelted with a pack of drugs by other prisoners. Ho-chun warned Chan to not throw it away, because all the prisoners had seen it, and it turned out to be Ho-chun's plan so that Chan get an additional punishment and not be free, so that Chan could help Mac in Ho-chun's escape plan. When the chief warden come, Chan immediately hiding the drugs under the feet. The chief warden also suspects Chan, who is talking about something with Ho-chun. The chief warden tells Chan to come forward to him, and finally the chief warden finds out that Chan is hiding drugs under his feet. Ho-chun also tells his men to admit that it is belong to him, so that this time Chan can be free from his punishment. After that, Mac tried to check himself into the prison hospital. There is also Shen, who is being treated for the incident before. It turned out that Mac's purpose is to analyze Ho-chun's escape plan in that place, until he find an idea and immediately invited Shen to help him. On the other side, Lamb had also been expelled from the isolation room. Lamb is so angry with Chan and Mac because they decide on their own to help Ho-chun's escape. His anger because Lamb doesn't want to involve his family affairs with Mac and also Chan. Let Lamb take care of it himself, but Chan and Mac, who already feel that they are brothers, will help to save his wife and daughter who are being held hostage by Ho-chun's errands. Mac then explained his escape plan. So if anyone is sick or injured, they will be taken to the prison hospital. And if it is serious and cannot be healed, they will be rushed to the nearest hospital using an ambulance. The only one way so that the hospital cannot handle patients, then they will damage the electricity by using two spikes plugged in the socket so that there is a blackout. But it is not that easy, because the room has backup electrical power which will be turned back on. So according to the analysis when renovating the building in the prison, Mac knows where the panels are stored, which is right below their headquarters room. So from that they will dismantle the floor to find the panel, and after they are taken to the nearest hospital using an ambulance, they will run away, and Chan, who has been released, will pick them up. Not only that, Mac also asked for help to Shen to be in charge of turning off the lights in the prison hospital using spike, because Shen's position is being treated there. After they are taken to a nearby hospital in an ambulance, they will escape and Chan, who is free, will pick them up shortly. Finally, they prepare their equipment and also act to dismantle the floor, while Chan himself has been released from prison. Until one day they are shocked by the arrival of the chief warden, who checked the Lamb's base. Fortunately, they managed to hide the floor, which was covered with tarpaulin. But after several days they did not find the panel, even though it was hollowed out deep enough. And finally Mac changed his plan, where they will do on Wednesday when doctors examine Shen. On that day they will be required to completely sick, so that they can also be sent to the hospital. The only way is to take magnesium oxide, which is the chemical content that will make them sick, and diarrhea. Magnesium oxide itself can be found at the kitchen door. And finally they act to go to the kitchen, while Mac tries to dismantle the wall near the kitchen door to get magnesium oxide. But unfortunately, suddenly there is a warden who come to the kitchen to make food, and they had to temporarily postpone the action until the warden actually left, because doesn't leave. Finally Ho-chun and Lamb made a fuss to distract the warden, while Mac rushed to collect debris containing magnesium oxide. From the incident they are taken to the hospital to be treated. There, Shen was waiting for him to continue his plan. Shen asked Ho-chun to increase his payment to $10 million. Shen also asked Ho-chun to pay him first, because Shen doesn't really believe in Ho-chun. Fortunately, Lamb broke up the argument and asked them to wait for the doctor's arrival. At night, the doctor come. He is surprised because there are many patients who had been waiting. According to his previous doctor's promise, that he would give Shen red wine. The action run again, where Mac took the wine and poured magnesium oxide, while Lamb and the others diverted the doctor. Not only that, CCTV in the room, also they hold it with a broom to point at the wall. They also find it difficult to get the doctor to drink with them, because a doctor will not drink it. Until they finally listen to the radio about horse matches, they are very engrossed while betting who will win. How many times have they lost until makes the doctor frustrated? Until finally, suddenly the horse chosen by the doctor became the winner. Absolutely, that moment make them, including the doctor, very happy, because that happy made the doctor celebrate by drinking together with all of them. They did that so that if they sick then, no one would take care of them, so they would all be rushed to the hospital closest and with an ambulance, and sure enough, shortly after they drank it, they all had such an overwhelming stomachache, while on the other side, one of the wardens suspected Lamb and the others because the CCTV in the hospital room is not moving. He also reported it to the chief warden to investigate, but the chief warden ignored him and considered that the CCTV being damaged. The chief warden also told to take Lamb and the others to the hospital by an ambulance. There is an argument between the chief warden and his subordinate because his subordinate believed that they are planning something. But the chief warden doesn't want to bother and ignored the complaints from his subordinate. Because still had a bad feeling, his subordinate asked the chief warden to come with an ambulance to monitor the movements of the prisoners. The chief warden refused the request, but he still insisted on leaving without the approval of his superiors. On the way, they all broke out in a cold sweat with pale faces from enduring the pain of their stomachs. While on the other side, Chan prepared chain stretch, so that when the ambulance passed by, it slipped immediately because the tires is broke. At that moment, all the prisoners escaped with the help of Chan. They are going to the forest and drank a gallon of water to neutralize the poison. Ho Chun also threw away Chan's cell phone because Ho Chun suspected Chan would call someone to catch Ho Chun. In short, they all going to the place where the car had been provided by Chan to go to the port. In the middle of the forest, they are intercepted by dogs, causing them to scatter running around in fear. Shortly after that, they finally reach where the car is, all changing clothes. But there is still something left behind. That is Mac. Chan tries to catch him up, and Ho Chun forbids him and threatens if they keep going to catch Mac up. Because they can't do anything, they go to the port as planned by Ho Chun and leave Mac alone in the forest. But unfortunately, on the way, their car broke down because the engine overheated. So they all had to encourage it to buy water at a nearby store. After arriving shop, Chan immediately rushed to buy a few bottles. There, Chan also wrote down the police phone number, so that the seller contact him and report it to the police. At that time, it is also reported that there were 4 prisoners who escaped from prison. But when the seller wanted to call him, suddenly Ho Chun thwarted him because he doesn't want to be commotion there. Lam stepped on the number so that Ho Chun would not know it. But unfortunately, the seller said that he was told by Chan to call the police. And finally, the plan of betrayal to Ho Chun is exposed, where indeed they had no intention to escape and would bring Ho Chun back to the prison. Fight inside the store happened that Ho Chun against Lam, Chan and Shen. But even though only one person, Ho Chun is able to surpass all of them, because Ho Chun is carrying weapons. Even Shen and Lam were also stabbed in his body, because he was cornered. Finally, Ho Chun took the seller hostage. But fortunately, soon, the police arrived to secure the scene. All people are recaptured, but it wasn't a sad thing because that is their plan to bring Ho Chun back into prison. In addition, it turned out that Chan had also cooperated with the chief warden's subordinate, where he asked for help to capture Ho Chun when they escaped later, because it is not his wish, but they were forced by Ho Chun by threatening the safety of their family. While on the other side, the chief warden visited by the ICEC, which is the organization that deals with corruption cases, where it turns out that the chief warden has received bribes from Ho Chun. That's why the chief warden treated Ho Chun as special and let Ho Chun escape. The chef warden be reported by his own subordinate when he was hearing the conversation with Ho Chun. He will also be a court witness later. Not only that, the chief warden also break the rule, where Ho Chun is allowed to use the telephone for personal gain, which whereas Lam previously was not allowed. The mother-in-law of the chief warden also received a large transfer from the company of Ho Chun. From all these actions, now the chief warden must undergo further police check. On the next day, all the prisoners goes as usual. Ho Chun can only be silent and asked to accept his fate in prison. Now Ho Chun is not the boss because he has no money and he has been imprisoned for life. Until suddenly, a new prisoner come in that day, and it is the chief warden. After several cases that occurred in the prison, now a former the chief warden named Tang had to languish in prison for 10 years. When he became the chief warden, made himself not placed together with other prisoners. The purpose is Tang would not be used as revenge by prisoners who had received his cruelty. Therefore, Tang is forced to be placed in solitary confinement. The rule is triggered by the new chief warden. This time the chief warden has a very good leadership passion and honesty when compared to Tang. He will not accept bribes or compromise with prisoners and is more concerned with justice and the welfare of all prisoners. Tang also had begged to the chief warden to be placed in an ordinary prison with the others. But the chief warden refused, which made Tang angry and banged his head on the table. After the incident, now Tang hospitalized, the suspicion from doctors that Tang had been depressed because he had been into darkness and confined space for a long time and lack of social interaction. From the depression, Tang become very aggressive and is even likely to injure himself. Therefore, doctors suggest 3 options. The first is Tang are left in regular prison and interact with others. The second is Tang held in solitary confinement by being given sedatives. And the third is to leave Tang alone until he commits suicide. And finally, the chief warden deciding that Tang remains in solitary confinement with regular drug use. While other side, there is one of the prisoners who has been ostracized by the other prisoners, and he doesn't want to be a subordinate of Shen. He is Ho Chun. In previous season, he had tried to escape from prison, and once gave all the prisoners money to become his men, however, because he had failed and his money had run out. Therefore, Ho Chun, now ostracized, felt his self-esteem was lowered. At night, Ho Chun vented his emotions to one of the sleeping prisoners, so that caused Ho Chun to get punishment by being placed in solitary confinement. At that time in solitary confinement, Ho Chun was close to Tang. Therefore, Tang asked the warden to give time to talk to Ho Chun. Feeling that they had the same condition, Ho Chun took the opportunity to ask Tang for help, that Ho Chun wanted to escape from prison, and because Tang is the former chief warden, Ho Chun believed that Tang would know everything about the ins and outs about the prison. With his knowledge, Ho Chun hopes that Tang can help him escape from prison, while Tang also wants to ask Ho Chun for help, namely by getting Tang out of solitary confinement and placed in an ordinary prison. But first, Ho Chun have to become the boss of the prisoners by defeating Shen and Lam, so that when Tang is in an ordinary prison, all the prisoners not kill him. After coming out of the isolation room, Ho Chun immediately bet on himself in a fight that was always held inside the prison. With confidence, Ho Chun bet all the cigarettes he had, and because this is a big bet, so Shen took out his men, who were large enough to cross out. Shen believing all the prisoner could defeat Ho Chun. But in fact, after the match began, the prisoner immediately collapsed with just one punch from Ho Chun. After his defeat in the end, the right hand of Shen intervened to fight Ho Chun. But same as before, the power possessed by Ho Chun. Ho Chun could defeat them all easily. Shen admit his defeat and give all his cigarette bets. But it turned out it was not a victory over the bet that Ho Chun wanted. But Ho Chun wanted to fight with Shen. The goal is none other than Ho Chun wanted to seize his power after successfully defeating Shen. From that challenge, making Shen a little bit worried, because Shen felt unsure that he could win the fight with Ho Chun. Shen also afraid if he loses, his honor will fall in front of the other prisoners, and it will make him abandoned by the prisoners. On the other side, the chief warden is shocked after getting a letter from the police, where the letter contains a complaint from Tang to the chief warden for not being given freedom in prison. Tang considers that the chief warden has abusing legal authority by placing Tang in solitary confinement, which even though the chief warden did it all because for Tang's safety from other prisoners, there is no other choice. Therefore, Tang is forced to be removed from solitary confinement and placed with other prisoners. The arrival of Tang makes the other prisoners were shocked. Even without further, they immediately gave a greeting with the desire to kill Tang. However, because there is still warden there, they could only temporarily resist their desire. The warden also threatened all prisoners that if they dared to act out of bounds, then they would get harsher punishment. With this threat, it made Tang feel rancid, because Tang sure that the prisoners would not dare to kill him. Even Lam, who tried to greet him well, is not heeded at all by Tang. From the incident, Shen and Lam protest to the chief warden, because by removing Tang, then would make the prison is not conducive. But the chief warden had no other choice, so the chief of warden asked Shen and Lam to help stabilize the conditions of the other prisoners so as not to touch Tang. All for the warden's plan so that the reforms he made for the prison do not fail. So the reforms were formed in the prison. It is called an educational course program, where the purpose of the program is to educate prisoners, where it will be used by prisoners to find job when they are released, and also so that prisoners can be accepted back into society with the knowledge they have gained. Therefore, the program is mandatory for all the prisoner. However, Shen disagrees because he thinks the program is irrelevant to him, who gets life sentence. Lam added that what the prisoners wants is not an education but welfare, and it turns out that the chief warden will not only provide an education, but the warden will employ them in cooperation between food companies, where the chief warden will also support the food welfare of the prisoners by providing hygienic food as a result of cooperation with that company. Not only that, the chief warden will also provide leniency for prisoners who behave well and work hard. They will get a reduction in prison terms. Even those who get life sentences will also be able to be released conditionally from all reform plans that make prisoners happy and supportive of the program. The chief warden also informed Tang that Tang would soon be transferred to another prison. It is all for the sake of his safety and the stability of the prison. After that, Tang and Ho Chun talked about their plans, where Tang, who is the former of chief warden there, certainly knew the ins and outs. So Tang planned that when there is a car and food comes, they will try to sneak in the car so that they will easily escape from prison. But before their plan is carried out, first, Ho Chun must attract sympathy from the prisoners so that they can get a little bit help from the prisoners. Therefore, Tang tries to make trouble with the prisoners, where Ho Chun will be pretending to beat Tang, so that they assume that Ho Chun has defended them. Not only that, Shen, who is assigned to maintain the stability of the prison, will certainly break up the fight, making his men feel annoyed with Shen, and more sympathetic to Ho Chun, who has been considered to be defending the prisoners. Finally, Shen provoked and get angry to Ho Chun. To the end, Shen provoked to Ho Chun, so that Shen is willing to accept the challenge of fighting with Ho Chun. Not only that, Shen also gave a challenge to Ho Chun, where the loser had to cut off one hand. Before the match started, both sides prepared physically and mentally, until suddenly Shen got a letter from someone, who, even though everyone has assumed that Shen has no friends or even family, but it turns out Shen has a loved one. The contents of the letter are about the feelings of missing that person to Shen, who immediately makes Shen cry. While on the other side, Tang made a medicinal potion, where it turns out that the medicine that has been given to Tang when he was isolated, Tang had never drunk it. Tang deliberately kept it and would mix the drug into Shen's drink before the match with Ho Chun started, and in the end the day of fight began. It is seen that Ho Chun is preparing to wait for Shen's arrival, while Shen is preparing mentally along with Lam in the bathroom. Lam, as his best friend, also encouraged Shen so that Shen could win the fight. But unfortunately, the effects of the medicine that had been given by Tang made Shen vomit from an overdose. Shortly after that, Tang also appeared there. With a very weak condition, Shen could not do anything, even though he has realized that all of this because of Tang, until finally Tang viciously kills Shen. Shen's death made the all prisoners shocked, including Lam, who could hardly believe that his best friend had died miserably. From that incident, the warden took an action to search the sleeping boards of all the prisoners, and as a result the warden found sharp weapons on Ho Chun's mattress. It is suspected that the device was used to kill Shen. In the end, Lam and Ho Chun are taken to the warden room to be questioned. The chief warden explained that the camera in front of the bathroom had been damaged, which was previously Shen with Lam, but the chief warden not suspect to Lam, because when the incident, Lam was being caught on other CCTV were elsewhere, as well as Ho Chun. Although a gun was found on his bed, but Ho Chun was at the place of the fight waiting for the arrival of Shen. Ho Chun, who felt framed, and explained that this might be Tang's action, where Tang had a plan to escape from prison. So Ho Chun participated in helping him, starting from getting rid of Shen in order not to be an obstacle. But Ho Chun doesn't know that Tang's plan is to kill Shen and slander Ho Chun as if he is the murderer. Ho Chun also reveals Tang's plan to escape by sneaking in the food shuttle car, but the warden doesn't believe it because there is no solid evidence. To seek the truth of the incident, the chief warden told his subordinate to identify every incident on that day, until suddenly the chief warden felt pain in the stomach so great that the chief warden is required to be taken to the hospital. Now the prison is temporarily held by the right hand of the warden, named Chung, where according to previous job, Chung asked the prisoners to supervise movements of Tang, until when Tang asks permission to go to the bathroom during break time, Lam begins to suspect Tang, where it turns out that Tang has escaped and beaten the warden on guard, while on the other side, Mac has come to the prison to take the goods of Shen. Mac also asks Warden Chung to immediately arrest the perpetrators the murder of Condet. Mac explains to Chung that the culprit is most likely Tang, because Tang hates Shen all this time. Mac also suspects that there are other warden who are willing to help Tang in prison, but Chung can't immediately arrest Tang because there is no evidence. Then Lam informs that incident to Chung. Lam asked to mobilize all the wardens and prisoners to search for the whereabouts of Tang. They searched all corners of the kitchen, but unfortunately they did not find him. Then Lam asked to immediately stop the food transport car because Tang thinks that Tang is sneaking in the car according to the information provided by the Ho Chun previously. But it turns out that Tang was not there, so Chung suspects that it has been used as a distraction so that when everyone focuses on the car food, Tang can escape through other ways. All of this has been arranged by Tang to make Ho-chun a scapegoat, while Tang turns out to be picked up by two janitors. Where they are ordered by Tang, Tang continue his plan to escape in disguise as a janitor. Tang memorized all directions and roads, as well as the CCTV points in the prison, so as to make Tang and the other two officers smoothly carry out their duties. But unfortunately, the exit has been changed by the system by Chung, so that everyone cannot open it, and asked to stay in the prison area temporarily until the conducive atmosphere. There is no another option. Finally, Tang through CCTV threatens Chung to immediately open the door, and if it's not, then the two janitors and one warden will be killed one by one, with the threat making Chung a little bit scared because 3 people's lives could die if the door is not opened. But Mac and Ho-chun doesn't believe in it because they suspecting that Tang had cooperated with the janitor and warden. They're suspicious when they knowing that the two janitors had allegedly poisoned the chief warden while cleaning his room. Not only that, the warden named Wei is also very suspicious, because Wei is always there during strange events happened in prison. So they concluded that Tang cooperated with all 3 officers, and it was true that Wei cooperated with Tang. He did it all because Tang promised that his debts would be repaid soon. And because he was discovered, in the end, Tang took several prisoners hostage in the kitchen. The purpose is so that Chung to immediately releasing Tang from the prison. On the other side, Wei is very uneasy because he had been dragged into the case. So Wei is actually gambler, so his property was used up to play gambling. Now he had a lot of debt. Therefore, he is very afraid that if the case made him imprisoned and fired. But Tang doesn't care about the problems he faced. He is more concerned with being able to get out of prison. While other side, Tang tried to surrender himself in order to join the prisoners who were being held hostage. But unfortunately, Lam could not do anything and is forced to obey orders from Tang. Tang then negotiated with Chung to provide a car for Tang to escape from prison. And if not, then one by one the prisoners held hostage will be killed. Chung's panic is increasing, but fortunately there is Mac who offers himself to help in releasing the hostages, where Mac will go to the kitchen by passing through the air duct. While on the front side, the troops of SWAT team has been ordered to raid the kitchen. But unfortunately, the SWAT team had to retreat because Tang threatened the prisoners with one shot. If they continue to advance, Tang will not hesitate to kill them all. And Mac had managed to enter the kitchen through the air duct. He also gave a signal to Lam to take all the prisoners away through the air duct that Mac had prepared. And when Tang argued with Warden Wei, that is the moment the prisoners used to escape. When Tang returned to the room, he is shocked because there is a surprise attack from Lam until finally they are fight. Because there are no hostages, therefore the SWAT move forward again to secure the place. Even Lam had also managed to corner Tang. There was an intention to kill Tang to avenge Shen's death, but Mac tries to make Lam realize that Lam will soon be free and soon be able to see his grandson. From this incident, Tang is again arrested with a life sentence, while Ho-chun also gets an additional sentence, and the warden Wei is fired and imprisoned for 20 years for aiding in prison breaks and murder. Then the movie is end.